Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Hupp, thank you very much for telling your story. Your story is powerful. You and I have known each other a long time. Your story is one that I believe anyone assessing the horror of gun violence needs to hear and needs to confront. And Ms. Hupp, what I would ask you is many members of this committee believe that the right policy decision is to enact strict federal laws to make it harder for law-abiding citizens to own firearms. Do you believe, in your experience, in your judgment, that disarming law-abiding citizens makes our communities any safer?
I absolutely believe that disarming the average citizen makes for a much more unsafe society. Now your wheelchair-bound grandmother cannot protect herself from the thugs who want to take her Social Security check. If she has a weapon, now she's on equal footing.
Mr. Cheng, gun sales in the United States skyrocketed in 2020, including among minority groups. According to the National Shooting Sports Foundation, firearms sales during the first half of 2020 increased year over year by 51.9% for whites, 58.2% for African Americans, 49.4% for Hispanics, and 42.9% for Asian Americans. Why do you think that is?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. The fear in the Asian American community is palpable, and it's real. And Asian Americans are waking up to the fact that we are Americans and we have the right to exercise our right to self-defense. And if we want to use a firearm, that should be our choice. And it shouldn't be up to the government to decide or determine how and when we decide to defend ourselves. And so I want to send a very clear message to Asian Americans that we are Americans too. And we should be exercising every single one of our rights as American citizens. And I want everyone to speak up and contribute to this critical debate and discussion that we're having today about keeping our country safe and happy, and let everybody live the American dream that we all want and we aspire to attain.
Thank you, Mr. Cheng. I think that was a powerful and important message. Do you believe that the right to keep and bear arms is a civil right? And to what extent do you think the additional firearms purchases last year were motivated in part by the riots we saw across the country as city after city in our country burned, as stores were looted, as police officers were murdered? To what extent do you think individual citizens wanted to be able to protect their own homes and their own businesses and their own families in the wake of the violence they were seeing unfold across our country?
Yeah, putting the pieces together, a constant stream of civil unrest, of buildings and homes being burned, of people of all races being attacked, the stress of being quarantined during COVID, talk about defunding the police, demoralizing law enforcement, encouraging them to retire early or just quit altogether. Because why would a law enforcement officer want to put their life on the line for a public that doesn't want them? I can empathize with that. And so put on top of that the 149% increase in anti-Asian American violence. You betcha. Asian Americans are putting all these pieces together, just like all Americans are saying, this is a more dangerous society that we've experienced over the past year and that we're experiencing now. And unfortunately, it's only getting worse. And I don't want that, and nobody else wants that. But there is a logical conclusion that if you're going to defund the police, and if there's going to be increased violence, and if I need to be my own first responder, that I need to have a firearm to defend myself and my family.
Okay, thank you. Final question, Ms. Hupp. A couple of weeks ago, I introduced an amendment along with Bill Cassidy that would have provided that the $1,400 stimulus checks going out from the government not go to criminals, not go to criminals who are currently incarcerated, not go to mass murderers and rapists and child molesters, who are currently in prison. We voted on it on the Senate floor. Every Senate Democrat voted no, and it's failed by a single vote, which means if even a single Democrat had supported that amendment, we would not be currently sending U.S. taxpayer checks to violent criminals, including mass murderers, including presumably the shooter in Atlanta, the shooter in Boulder, including the shooter in the Mother Emanuel Church in South Carolina, including potentially the shooter in Santa Fe and other mass shooters who are currently incarcerated. Ms. Hupp, what do you think of the federal government sending $1,400 checks to mass murderers who carried out acts of gun violence?
So let me get this straight. I don't get a stimulus check. One of my sons doesn't get a stimulus check, but the murderer does. I'm shocked. I'm horrified. I cannot understand what possible reason anyone would have to vote against that, Senator Cruz. I don't get it.
Thank you.
Because we are on a roll call, several members are in transit, and so we're going to give Senator Tillis an opportunity now, and we'll catch up on the Democratic side as senators appear.